Good afternoon, friends and neighbors.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
I am Stephen Connor. I'm a member of the Commission on Aging, and I call this inaugural Senior Voices meeting to order. As you can see, we have a full agenda. It should be interesting. It should be an interesting event. So let's get at it. Okay. Welcome. First, we have other COA, Commission on Aging commissioners present. I would like to introduce them to you. Commissioners, please stand up. We got Clem and Carmen and Peter and Andrea. Okay, I got the name right. And Joe. And Joe and Steve. We're all here. Okay. So the Senior Voice is a monthly forum, okay, that provides news of relevance to seniors. News such as changes in Medicare and things like that. We deliver education of unique interest to seniors, and it also serves as a sounding board where seniors are heard and workable solutions are explored. So we're more or less like a middleman. We hear from you, and then we can take it to the next level and come up with a solution. Okay. The mission studies needs of elders and coordinate programs meeting those needs. Again, the members are Peter, Andrea, myself, Maureen, who's not here, Carmen, George also is not present, and Clem and Joe. And some of the activities that the commission has accomplished is the rack card. I think you all have a sample of that. That has all the important numbers and things like that. Updated senior directory and secured donated resources. So there's a senior directory that I think you'll all be getting soon. That, again, is there. Right, Joe's showing a sample of that, and it also has important phone numbers and resources. We also collaborated with the Playhouse to provide free movies for seniors. The commission also arranged free Deborah Ann's ice cream for seniors on National Ice Cream Day. And we're assembling a blue ribbon panel of advisors to accelerate the Commission on Aging mission. So things are growing. This is the first of many to come, and this is exciting because it's face to face. It's not a Zoom. It's not pretty. You know, it's a chance to hear your groans and your gripes and what's going well and what's can be improved, and we'll take it to the next level. Okay. Let's see. We want to. We want to acknowledge and thank our esteemed partner, the Ridgefield Library. Without the library, this event would not be possible. Lucy Hanley, Lucy, You still here?
Over here.
Here you are. Thank you, Lucy. Okay, and thank you to all of your colleagues. Big news. Okay. We're about to launch a survey to understand needs directly from the perspective of you all, the people we serve. MindTech, an experienced data marketing company, has developed a survey and will manage the entire process. Ridgefield's leading nonprofits and municipal departments have worked collaboratively with MindTech to develop the survey. In anticipation of the identification of unmet need, we have begun to explore possible funding strategies.
Steve,
Um,
Ken's gonna say a few words.
Yeah, I'm looking for the. I'd like to introduce Mr. Ken Devane, President of MindTech, the global company administering the survey.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Ken.
Thank you for being here, Rudy. Good to see you again. My name is Ken Devane, and I run a company called MindTech, and we are doing a survey of all the 55-plus residents in Ridgefield. Our objective is to find out, as Steve mentioned before, what's working and what's not working. But what's unique about this survey is there are roughly 8,000 of you in town. We're going to try and get the survey to all of you. So no one gets missed, everyone gets an opportunity to fill it out. And we'll do that through emails and also through volunteers who are going to deliver it once we find out who has and does not have the survey. So all this information will be coming out to you. It was in the paper just recently. And we've worked with a lot of our, we call them partners in town, RBNA, the library, Founders Hall, and we've asked them some of the issues that their members face that we'd like to hear about. We have about 40 questions, and they go everything from who are you, what do you like about Ridgefield, what about your health, what about the future, what do you worry about? And the idea is to find out what's on the top of your mind and what can the town do for you informationally, structurally, all those things. As I said to Rudy before, if we ask the question, we have to be prepared to deal with the answers, and he assures me that we are, as do our partners, who simply want to make sure that what we're offering is resonating with you, and what we're not offering, we know about and we'll try and bring to you. So where there are folks who do not have access to email, are concerned about working electronically, don't care to get involved in Facebook and stuff like that, we'll have paper surveys for you, which will drop off, and when you're completed, we'll pick them up. For people who cannot take the survey, even on paper, we're going to have volunteers with a tablet with the questions on it, and they will sit with you and fill it out for you. And anyone who comes with this material will be certified by the town, so we know that they're good people, if you will. So, does anyone have any questions that I can help you with on this, in terms of thinking about the survey?
What is the launch date?
The launch date will be soon. We just finished it. We have to get it programmed, the digital side of it, and once we have that done, we'll print it. What we thought we would do is start with our organizations like RBNA and Founders Hall and the library, emailing it out to their members, because we're very concerned about sharing your information. We cannot take their membership information. We don't want it as theirs. You have a relationship with them. They will simply send out the link to the survey. When you take the survey, this is the digital one, it comes back to our servers, and we collect the information. We're not asking who you are. We're asking gender, birth month, and year. And the reason for that is that we know where you live in terms of being in Ridgefield, or you wouldn't be here. So we have the tax records and we have the voter records, which simply say, here are the people who are over 55 who get it. But if you wanted to take the survey 10 times, Go right ahead. You can do it on the paper one. You can't do it on the digital one because we see the IP address and only accepts one application for it. The other thing we do, we don't plan on doing it, but we could, if we have one person born today, September 12th, whatever year, and we knew there was only one in town, we had 30 surveys on that date, we know we have a date. But again, we don't think that that's going to be an issue. The exciting thing, though, is when we will publish the results, we'll put it in the paper, we'll have a report, we're still working on that. But the magic of this is to be able to say, rather than we have people who are 60 to 65, 66 to 70, by having individual years and asking a question about food. Do you have enough food? Can you afford food? Can you afford your appliances? As we start to look at ages, and we see all of a sudden you get to 77, and a lot of these things start to tail off, or they start dropping, or the dissatisfaction increases. That lets social services know, are we keeping an eye on these people? Is there something we're not doing? Why is it at a certain age? We all know, I've been in town now for 40 years. I came here in my 30s and now in my 70s. It's a magical place. But we all run into life, and we all get to a point where we need more help. And so if we understand what's coming from those who are already there, we can help you steer a path to where we're going to go, or where you're going to go. And that's really all we're trying to do. We don't have all the answers, but we want to ask the questions so we can start to go there. And then ideally, what I'd love to see happen in town is instead of doing 40 questions on all topics, we pick the topic that's most important to people in general, and then each year, maybe have a panel of 55 plus people who agree to fill this out. And every year we send a topic, and we benchmark how we're doing. You asked about this, we did this, did that work? And make it very simple to get these answers. And the key is no more guessing, no more wondering, no more disinformation. This is what's going on, this is what the people say. So hopefully that makes sense. Yes?
How are you going to find the 8,000 people? Just send them, where are you going to get their email address?
Well, we don't have email addresses.
Ken,
Well, yeah.
because there are people who are on Zoom, can you repeat the question?
How are we going to find the 8,000 people? We already have that off the tax rolls and the voter rolls, which I'll point out is public record. There's no confidentiality in that. But we're not using that to send the survey. We're simply doing that to get a handle on the number of people who are there. So for instance, if through our partners we can email out 4,000 surveys, we'll give them our list of the 8,000. They'll check it off against their members just to know we've got people covered. And then we'll know who didn't get it. And then we will know where our volunteers have to go to drop it off. And ideally, we want to take that list and get right to the last person and know they got it. I've been asked, what about homeless people? What about people who live in their cars? What about people who don't want to be found? We'll try and get to them all. We'll give them all opportunity. I mean, I've mentioned a few folks, like you could park in front of Dunkin' Donuts and capture a lot of them. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a survival way. And so, and they may say, not interested. In fact, I would guess they wouldn't be. But let's at least give them a chance to try and take it. So by cross-tabbing your answers, by cross-tabbing women versus men, cross-tabbing, 77 versus 87, we're going to find a lot of good information to share with you. And it's always, what if this, what if this, let's mix that, let's mix this. This is what my company has done now since 1999. And just finding these things, we call it the aha moment. It's right in front of you, but you can't see the forest for the trees. What didn't we see that was right in front of us? But that's a great question. Thank you for that. But we're going to try to get it out to everyone. Yes?
You said that you've done a lot of these in other towns?
We worked with different organizations, not specifically in a town, but we've worked with everybody from Pfizer in Europe to the U.S. Navy recruiting people, lots of different things. And I think the advantage that gives us is we're not locked in on one type of information. We have lots of different information. So we can see trends and responses and all that. I'll give you a little tidbit on that. So if you're familiar with the Army and the Navy recruiting, and you've seen their commercials in football games, what's the one thing you always see in the commercial? What family member is always in the commercial? It's not a wrong or right answer, just anybody.
Parents.
It's a parent, but which one?
Mother.
Why is that?
Get approval.
Bingo. Exactly right. You can't join the military until mom says it's okay. And so in the middle of the college football game, where people think about aircraft carriers, he's sitting on the bed looking through the room at mom, thinking, is she going to say yes or no? It's those little things that we think are irrelevant, but make all the difference in the world sometimes. And that might happen here. Let's find out. That's what we're going to try and do. So, more questions? Yes, Peter.
Yeah, Ken, so will all the results, when you're done, will they all be available for anyone?
That, I think we have to do, and share it with everyone. Now, I don't know if the Ridgefield Press will print the entire thing, but I think that Commission on Aging should certainly put the results out and make it available to you, and then maybe our partners will have it on their front desks and all that you have to. That, at this point, is to be determined. We have to see what kind of response we get and all. And, you know, as long as everyone's comfortable doing that. That would be my objective, but that might not be the final answer on that. More questions?
Who pays for you doing the survey?
I'm sorry?
Who pays you for doing such a survey?
It's my contribution.
Wonderful.
My company's not charging for it. We did get a grant of $4,000 from the Board of Selectmen to cover costs like printing and tabulating, whatever else we have to do that's out of pocket. I mentioned to you that I've been here for 40 years. And, you know, it's interesting, just one sidetrack here. I remember being at the Memorial Day Parade a couple of years ago, right around the start of COVID, I guess it was, maybe just before COVID. And there was a New Yorker who had just moved here, had no idea what he was in for. And I said, you're about to see the most amazing thing you've ever seen in terms of the parade that we have here. And it's those little things that stick with you forever, especially when your kids grow and leave, and you've got that memory when you sit there, you know, what we used to do with them. That's what I love about the town. So, but I don't want to take up the entire time. I have one more question for you. I was with we road tested the survey with a few folks that I know in the area that range from 86 to 66. Just wanted to see if we were hitting the right notes on the survey. And one of them is in here, but I'm not going to embarrass her yet. But one of the things that came up in conversation was wills. And I just said, do you have a will? And the person said, no. This person's in their mid-70s. And I didn't want to get into why, but just as a show of hands, how many people here have a will? You are rare, because only 70% of people have wills. And there's lots of different reasons for it, but you are good to have that. So there's one thing I have with me. I'm doing a project now with the Diocese of Bridgeport, and this is to upgrade their technology. And one of the projects we're working on now is cemeteries. And I know it's a topic that most people do not want to talk about, but for all of us in this room, it's sooner rather than later. And there are a lot of questions people have about it. One of the things we created was something we got from an outfit in Toronto called 86 Decisions in 72 Hours. And it's the 86 things you have to think about when someone passes, before you even get to one leaving. And the first thing that always hits people is passwords. Our lives are on our phones. Someone passes, you want to notify people, you can't get into the phone to tell them. It's little things like that we don't think about until we have to. And it's just coming at you like a waterfall. So I'm not pushing a church here, even though it's on a church just because I have it printed on. But this is the list. I'll have them in the back. Take it with you and think about it. If you have all this information already, check it off, that's great. I guarantee you there's something on here you haven't thought of. That might help you. And so, in my mind, and I'm not on the commission, but if the commission's charge is to help you, maybe this is one more thing we can throw in there to help you along with the survey. So, when you get it, please take it. If we have a number, we have Ira Joe Fisher on our voicemail line, and if there's any questions, just call the number and we will try and get back to you as quickly as we can. Our objective is to hear from all of you and then report back what we heard. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken. Okay.
Hello. Wonderful.
So we heard about the survey, that's great. And I also want to repeat myself that thank you all for being here today. It takes a group, it takes a village to make things happen. So I hope you spread the word and let people know that these meetings are here every month, and it's an opportunity to communicate your needs. Okay. And let's see. So with future programming, I'm going to turn this over to First Selectman, Mr. Rudy Marconi, and Mrs. Grace Weber, founder of, Executive Director of Founders Hall. And you as to the direction of Senior Voices future programming. Rudy and Grace, please come up.
So there are many, many things that are happening in town that are great, and there are also many things that can be changed or improved upon. And there's also information that might be of interest to you that you don't feel that you have a way that you're getting. So this is our chance to talk about the types of things that you would like to hear more about, or things that you would like to explore. So the format of these meetings is monthly. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yes.
So the meetings going forward can be planned based on what your interests are. So that's part of what this moment is. Where'd you go? Rudy ran. So we can just open the floor and see what types of things you might be interested in as far as future topics. If there's a concern that you have, that might be an option for a topic that can be explored or discussed as well. So we're going to throw it out to you and see if anyone has any ideas or suggestions. There are some ideas up on the board there.
I have
Go
one
ahead.
to start, if I may. Last night, late, my wife and I had a discussion about aging in place. And as we began to look at our finances and where we thought we would be when that day comes, does it make sense to sell our home, look at an apartment so you have one check you write every month without an HOA, without worrying about taxes? Or do we stay where we are because we've been there for a while now, and you begin to look at the cost of assisted living? And fortunately, we've been relatively healthy. But when you look at assisted living, when you're looking at $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 a month, and you know that you may live, hopefully, for longer than what the statistics may show, you want, how are you going to do it? And I always thought it would be healthcare as well. You know, Medicare is great. RVNA is wonderful, but all of this takes money. And if we could have people, a panel like Joe's talking about the blue ribbon advisory panel, begin looking at that and making suggestions for people. During tax season, we used to have, Tony, do we still have a group that gets together to do taxes, right?
Yes, at the library.
Right here at the library. Thank you again to the library. To sit down with people and help them go through the same thing with choosing Medicare and the plans. We do a lot of work with a lot of seniors on that. If we had a group that could sit down and review where you're at and give you a professional opinion as to where your decision may be best for you. We all know everyone on the younger end of the scale of the seniors. I know pickleball is big, and there's a lot of demand for pickleball courts, and we are addressing that. But the spectrum of needs for us seniors runs from those who are 55, 60, still in relatively pretty good shape, to the 60s and 70s, and as Grace can attest to, the number of people we have at Founders Hall, over 100. How many?
Can't quote that.
Can't quote that. But compared to when we started, the numbers are growing, so it's proof that we're living longer. And that's wonderful news, but we have to learn how to live longer and how we can afford to live longer. So I'm open and really interested because your thoughts at these meetings that are going to continue on a monthly basis are what we're going to use as your local government, along with the Commission on Aging, bringing it to us, how to plan for the future for the seniors in this community, because it's going to do nothing but grow. The baby boomers, of which I am a member, it's going to explode into the senior population and the demands and accordingly. So we want to be a town that serves everyone, from cradle to grave, as they said. We want to be here for you and make your experience living in Ridgefield a fulfilling and lasting one. So please don't be shy. Don't think that, that's kind of a stupid question, maybe I shouldn't ask it. It's important that you would ask it.
Question.
Well, I have one question for the olders, those of us in our 80s or something. The biggest problem that I see is we need a little help sometime, and that's difficult to get. We've been fortunate, I have a son who comes down at least once a month, and it's sort of divided into 3 categories. Sometimes it's just little things around the house. You can't live, you'd like to get the summer clothes out, you'd like to get your, something taken away, you need rugs or comforters washed, they need to go to the laundromat, you can't carry them. It's that kind of thing. And then the other thing is tech help. Because even though you swear, I'm not going to do this, you have to do it now. Everything is online, and a lot of us are having problems with it. Now, Founders Hall has help, the library has help, but sometimes you need someone to come to the house because you can't plug your computer and something is, wonky with it. And I have thought that maybe some of the help with those 2 things could be supplied by older teenagers with a community service thing. I know that used to, in order to get on for Honor Society, you had to do community service. And it's a nice mix with the older and the younger. But then the other problem is healthcare help. And that is, I have felt this, when Bill came home from the hospital and was unable to walk, I just was hoping that somebody could come in for an hour or so. RVNA offers it, but it's in 4-hour segments and an 8-hour a week, which runs very expensive. So, and we're not the only one. I have other friends who are looking for the same help right now. So that's what the olders need.
Gail?
Rudy, you brought it up, but I am here with a whole bunch of pickleball players. We are in sad need of more dedicated courts, as I think you are aware, but through Founders Hall, through Parks and Rec, more and more people are learning to play pickleball, and I'm one of the instructors at Founders Hall for that, and we just keep shoving more and more people into the pickleball community, and we don't expand facilities at all. So I just wanted to, I know that you're aware of it, and I know there's some movement in that direction, but
There is, and the area I just got a quote for about $57,000. Now, that can come down, that's what we're working on now, to do some value engineering there. To begin the development of courts on Prospect Ridge, where you go into where the dog park is, and you continue around. Deniz is up at the soccer field, you have the Little League field on your right, and then the soccer field that's elevated. At the lower end, we're looking and putting in approximately 8 pickleball courts there that will be dedicated with additional parking as well.
Any
That's
idea of
real.
timeframe when that would be?
Hopefully we'll cut ground in the spring. I wanted to try and do it in-house to keep the expenses down because that type of work our highway department can do day in and day out. We've had the tree warden take down some trees. There are not too many that have to come down, but there are. We need to do a cut and fill, which we have the equipment to do, and then obviously asphalt it, and then it gets painted with the nets. And then the parking as well. I'm making it sound really easy. It's not a small project. It's a decent sized project, but hopefully by next summer, we'll see a plan there.
When you say asphalt, is that like a blacktop?
Yes,
That's not really.
why
It's
you
not
want
like
concrete?
tennis
We just
court.
got concrete. You
Concrete.
can't play on it yet, but we did
But the
the,
asphalt is not that great of a surface.
Same as a tennis court.
Yeah,
mhm.
just a thought.
Well, that raised the expense quite a bit.
Yeah, did you?
I understand what we did at the Governor Street tennis court and the basketball court is we did post-tension concrete that has a life of at least 18 to 20 years. I think most of us in this room would find that adequate, right, for us anyway. So we can look at that and do it right from the beginning, but it was expensive to do what we did, but with the asphalt, based on where we live, because of the change of the season, the freezing and thawing, the cracks, water gets in, the asphalt, it will create long-term maintenance needs, which is one of the problems you had with the Governor Park basketball courts, were the cracks, right? That became unsafe. So the extruded concrete, or the post-tension concrete, I should say, might be a better alternative. Thank you for that idea. Yes? Thanks.
Rudy, could I ask you please about housing options in town? What does planning and zoning feel about
Housing?
granny apartments, accessory buildings, things like that?
Planning and Zone is currently looking at the Branchville area of town. We have, and some people are wondering why we're putting any money in the Branchville. We've never really made any investments there. It's the forgotten child, if you will. Right now, and it's all grant money, we have it's about a $2.2 million project to do sidewalks, reconfigure the intersection with 102. The sidewalk will run down to the Wilton line on the west side, which is the Dunkin' Donuts side. Dunkin' Donuts was mentioned earlier. That's the first part of the project. The next part will be a bridge replacement at Depot Road. A new bridge will go in with a sidewalk attached to it. The intersection will have crossings, a box, if you will, to make it, this whole project is to make it pedestrian friendly. But long-term, and there are plans are in drawing phases right now by a private person to actually build what is called a Gen Y, Gen Z. That's definitely not our generation. That's I think 20 to 32, 35-year-olds. But the apartments will be small, they'll be affordable based on the size of the apartment. There'll be no kitchen, there'll be a little galley with a microwave and a sink and a fridge. Main kitchens downstairs like a dormitory. And there'll be a transition out of college into the real world, so kids have a place, because we need to take care of not only the seniors, but as I said, the younger people. Additionally, there'll be mixed unit housing there that'll involve senior affordable, straight out senior housing. And the reason we're looking at that area is does provide the maximum amount of public transportation. We have the train line and we have bus service that run up and down 7. So a young person coming out of school, or if you wanted to take a train into the city to catch a show, whatever you wanted to do, that availability will be right there where you will be, and everything will be walking with parking on the perimeter. We're working with the town of Reading as well because of the old wire mill there. They are looking at a similar project. So as a vision, well beyond my existence here, we see that as a population center. Our populations, if you look at the census, continue to grow and grow and grow. And eventually, we need to provide housing for people, and it has to be across all sectors of socioeconomic and racial profiles. And that's what we're looking to do in Branchville. In addition to that, we're looking at repurposing some of the office space. For those of you who've been here a while, Ridgefield used to be all apartments on the second floors of the downtown area. I had a lot of friends that grew up living right downtown on the second floor. But as we went through the 70s and the 80s, the landlords found that they could generate more income per square foot by converting them to offices. That did two things. It negated or eliminated the apartments downtown, but it also brought more traffic into town. So when you have people getting up in the morning and going to work, today we have, in that same square footage, instead of 2 people leaving, we have 6, 8 people coming to work with cars. So that had a big impact on our downtown. I can tell you that Patrick Downing on Bailey Avenue will be starting, it should have started by now, but by Casey Fuel on Bailey Avenue, I think there's about 34 units that will go in there, some of which will be affordable, I hope. Housing. Whoever wants to talk.
I'm interested in adult day programs beyond Founders Hall with more supervision. Right now, as far as I know, there's one in Sandy Hook and one in Norwalk, and that's it. A day supervised program for seniors.
You mean like almost home? Or almost, what is that? It's in Danbury, mothers go there.
What kind of programs would be of interest, do you think?
Was it supervised, interactive social programs, maybe lunch provided,
A
something
little
like 9 to
dancing,
4?
some music.
Yeah, adult daycare.
Adult daycare.
I don't want to put daycare, but yeah, that type of thing.
We don't have that.
No, there's nothing here.
No.
It's far away.
I used to have my mom go to Danbury, the bus would pick her
That
up.
doesn't exist anymore.
Really? On Federal Road?
Yeah. Since COVID.
Rudy, would you just repeat what it was? I was talking to a neighbor and now I didn't.
Yeah, the question has to do with adult daycare,
Okay.
and that there's nothing in Ridgefield where people can bring their elderly parents to have some social interactions.
I see.
There used to be a place in Danbury, but that's since closed and since COVID, and hasn't reopened.
Thank you.
So I think it'll be interesting to see in the needs assessment if there are other people who are finding the similar need and whether there's something that can be explored as far as programming for people who need a little more interaction.
The new building that's going on Bailey Street, will they have parking in the back of the building?
Yes, there is parking planned. If it's like every other project we've done, in the future won't be enough parking. Because what happens, other people will find, I'll come to work, I'll just stick my car in there, I don't have to get worried about a ticket, I don't have a permit. So I can see that being an issue, but there will be parking as required by planning and zoning regulations.
Carmen?
Yeah, getting back to housing, I noticed recently that Wilton and Westport have subsidized housing. Ridgefield was not listed as having any. Now, what is the difference between affordable and subsidized?
Subsidized is for senior housing. It's based on your income, and the state then subsidizes the difference. They give you X amount of dollars for that unit, and that's with our Ridgefield Housing Authority. And we have units at Ballard Green, as you know, some of you may know, and over at Prospect. There are other affordable formulas under 8-30G, which is state statute passed in 1989, And that's based on income, where you have moderate, and maybe Tony can get into the details of that. But it's based on your income, and we have about 300 units that are in the affordable category in the town of Ridgefield. The state law requires that we have 10% of our total housing stock in that, which would mean out of roughly 10,000 homes, we're supposed to have 1,000. And that's why you're hearing, and we'll be reading a lot about Hartford looking at mandating that municipalities build more affordable units. And I serve on a couple of committees on that at the state level. And that's a work in progress. But right now, we have about 3% of our housing stock that's in the affordable category, some of which is subsidized.
There's a question in the back.
Me?
Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. I was just curious on two things. One, for example, at Founders Hall and even this meeting, it's 60 and above. But some of us are not yet there, but retired and want to know and get involved. And there just doesn't seem for, let's say, the 55 to 60-ish area for
And that would be the gap for programming and,
programming, recreational activities, information gathering, being able to join. Like Founders Hall, you have to be 60, I believe, to join. Things of that.
okay. So the question was that there is a gap in programming for people who are younger than 60, who are also retired and are looking for some programs. And that's what her question was about.
Yeah.
So that's another gap that we're seeing in
Just
town.
as, yeah, big
Okay.
time. And with respect to what somebody said before about wills, I think it was Ken, what I found very important is also learning about trusts and not only just wills. And it's a very important component for people.
The other comment was not only are wills very important, but to learn about trust is also
Yes,
important.
exactly. If they're doing seminars.
Yes, Margaret?
Just to get back to Rudy's point and someone else's point, several years ago, RVNA had two programs. One was quality living at home, where they went into people's homes and helped them with various tasks. And the other was end-of-life planning. I think it was a few webinars. Perhaps they could be models for some programming that the student might do.
Thank you. I thought there was another question.
I just wanted to mention on wills and trust, you must get a qualified senior attorney, senior law attorney. And there are a lot of very good ones here in Connecticut.
Okay, so
But you
elder law.
cannot do that on your own or with just a down-the-street lawyer.
Okay, the suggestion was that people be sure that they're using a qualified elder law attorney for wills and trusts. Yes? Yes.
I just recently moved here and I had an awfully hard time finding affordable housing. Just the resources to where to go. And I had to put my name on several lists. It was very frustrating, and it still is, because I feel like there's no options, or maybe I just didn't know where to look.
It sounds like there might be a need to do a program on housing and what the options might be for housing. Thank you and welcome to Ridgefield.
In this area, because it is so affluent, I'm single, I live alone. I really had a hard time establishing housing here.
Right, so it's trying to find out what's possible and learning how
Affordable.
it's not the system, but how things work and how you can get information. Okay, that's a great point as well. Thank you. Yes, Sarah.
Years ago, we had what we called a locker room, where people would bring crutches, canes, walkers, any kind of help, medical devices. And that was always given out. We also had it at the town hall, and we had it at the VNA at the time. It had to be closed because of insurance and some other legal issues. Is there any possibility of possibly considering a way to make that available again? Because there are so many people, it's very expensive getting some of these things, and they're not covered by insurance. And so many people need them. And there's so many, when my friend passed away a few years ago, I had one heck of a time finding places for the hospital bed she had, the lift to get her in and out of the tub, all of that. I kept calling churches, I called the town, you know, nobody seemed to be able to help. And one of the people at a church that I knew, he knew somebody who desperately needed those things. And fortunately, found homes for them. But
There is a program out there, it's called Wheel It Forward. Wheel It Forward.
Wheel It Forward, where is that?
Veterans are taking.
It's not in Ridgefield though.
No, it's not in
There's-
Ridgefield, but I just had a need for something short-term, and VNA advised me if I didn't want to purchase an item, cool. It's refurbished or reused type of, it's not brand new, but if you only needed short-term.
So the comment was for this medical equipment that you might need just short-term, there is a group called Wheel It Forward that you can contact for short-term needs. It's refurbished and
The VNA would have more information of their.
our VNA might
Yeah,
have some
I'm much
information.
more interested in going back to what we had years ago. It was, is there some way of getting around it? Had to do with the insurance or legalities. I mean,
So that might be another thing to explore, whether there's a possibility to have
Yeah,
a clearinghouse type
there's
situation.
so many, things that are left by people that can help somebody else out without having to pay for it. So I'm hoping that possibly that can also be on your agenda.
Thank you for that suggestion. Maureen, I think you had a question?
Yes, my question, or two questions pertaining to number 9 on the list. I thought this would have come up earlier, but tax relief and age-friendly initiatives. The town benefit that I guess most of us receive seems to have been frozen in time when everything else, including my taxes, is escalating. And so I'm wondering, number one, if it has ever been a topic of discussion to make this a little more helpful. When I first qualified for the town benefit, it was about 1/6 of my taxes. Now it's less than an eighth. And my other question pertains to the sewer tax. A lot of us are single people, a lot of us live in condominiums, and other people live in big houses with a lot of people and large pieces of property that they irrigate, et cetera. But our sewer taxes jumped from $440 a year, more than doubled to at least mine is $878. And it just doesn't seem equitable for seniors to have to pay that. Those are my questions.
First part on the property taxes, yes, there have been discussions. Unfortunately, as time has gone on, we lost an individual named Marty Carr, and he, what was Peter's last name? Anyway, they were very active in pushing the Board of Selectmen and coming in during budget time and saying we must increase the tax credit. What we did at that time, because of the expansion of the schools 20 years ago, we took the amount of that expansion, what it interpolated into in terms of an annual tax increase, and put that as an increase every year for the seniors. So I think it's up to what now, 1140 or 1040? It's something like that. And you're right, it's hit a plateau. We need to look at that, but there's a second program called the tax deferment program, where if your salary, your household income, total household income is under $65,000 per year, you qualify to apply for a tax deferment. It can be 10%, it can be 100% of your taxes. And again, I did this with my mom. We did 100% because she wanted to see money in her checkbook. It was very, very important for her. And that solved that issue for her. And what we did is when she finally passed and we sold the house, we settled with the town, and it provided her a sense of comfort that's extremely important as we all get older, knowing that we have financial security. So I urge people to look at that program. That's called a tax deferment program, but we would like to raise that to $75,000. So if you keep calling me and send me emails, if you email or write a letter or pick up the phone and call and say, you need to get this on the agenda, it needs to be addressed. And we'll move that forward, I promise. Yes?
And even the federal government, when your social security check comes, is adjusted for inflation. I mean,
Yes.
last year it was like 9% or something like, I mean,
Yeah,
let's get real about, you know, how
we
expenses are
don't do
going
cost
up.
of living adjustments, they're called COLAs.
No, but this
None of
hasn't
our
been
contracts
adjusted
in
in
town
20 years.
have that. That's an extremely expensive ongoing cost for taxpayers. We try to stay away from that. But tax credits, absolutely, we believe in. The second part of your question with the sewer allocation is we did ask the WPCA, not repeatedly, but we did ask them to give consideration to a senior break in the tax on the sewers. It did go from 440 to 880. That's how I ballpark it. That's what mine went up. It's expensive, but relative to other communities, it's in the middle to the high side, moderate. We had been low for many, many, many years, and the project had to get done, unfortunately. But to do a senior consideration, I would agree with you 100%. I'm not ducking the question. I'll certainly represent that to the WPCA. But that's a very separate question from town government. They're a separate entity that the ratepayers pay. And what we would do is ask the WPCA from the Board of Selectmen to consider a senior tax credit on the sewer billings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Along with all these costs for housing and taxes and that kind of thing, are the utilities. And I know they come through the state, but they have gone up so much in the last few years, it's just not affordable. For people like my husband and myself, we plan to stay in that home until we're carried out. We're not going into congregate living. We pay a fortune for long-term care health. We pay a fortune for that since we were 55. We're so locked into it, we've got to continue. But now, I think we need a commission, or whatever you want to call it, at town hall, where we can go and talk to these people about the electric bill, which now ours is $300 a month for 4 weeks. Our television and landline and computer has gone up to $300 a month, 4 weeks, 4 weeks. And we know that our water company is now owned by the electric company. And so while the Department of Public Utility Control, whatever that misnomer is, didn't allow the water company to increase this year. We darn well know it will. It absolutely will. I've got letters here that I've written about that and copied that and sent them to them without ever a reply. And the tangle of computers, we've lost One American News, and we've lost other conservative stations, and the price just continued to go up and up and up. We have fewer services, and it's all costing us more. If we could have somebody at town hall to go in and unravel some of these things for us, it would really be a benefit. Thank you.
I just, to that question, I think everyone heard it about utility fees. One thing, we can do something at town hall, but again, that's a private company. It's not controlled. PURA is the new public utility regulatory authority that does the rate increases. As you know, we've objected vehemently about Eversource.
Oh.
because of their poor service, especially restoration during some of our more difficult times with the Mother Nature storm events that we've experienced. But it has become a bottom line company, not an electric line company. And that's the problem. And we need to get that under control. I don't know if the government's gonna do anything in Hartford. I know we can certainly pass along. I always welcome information like this, because we do have a representative that comes in. Our representative, and they rotate quite a bit. The current one's name is Austin Samuelson. But if you wanna have a meeting with him, I'm more than willing to set that up. At any time you want to come in and express your concerns, because maybe Eversource should be looking at a senior credit program. Because you can't, most of you are on fixed incomes, right? You're retired, you get Social Security, you may have a pension, some are more fortunate than others, but nonetheless it's fixed. Each time those rates go up, and they're not small increases. They're not 0.5%, 1%. They're at 10, 12, 14%, which is tremendous to take that hit on a monthly basis. So I certainly understand, and if you want to, I'm more than willing to set that up.
And anyone with Frontier, and I've been told they do have a contact person there, they're going to take all television service away. So how do we shop for that? I mean,
I know.
so.
We share in your agony.
Could I just do a time check and let people
Oh,
know?
don't go to Comcast at all.
Could I just do a time check?
No.
We have 25 minutes left.
No, and they won't
just so you
carry
know.
Fox either.
Okay, so it
and
looks
this
like we
is-
have at least 3 more questions.
This
on the
seems to
floor.
be bleeding into the next slide, which is sounding board, grunts, groans, and cheers. What do people like? What strengths can we build on? What are weaknesses that need to be shored up?
Okay,
That's what I think I'm hearing.
I think you had a
And
comment.
that's great. So if all of this information can be condensed, right, Steve? And be on the agenda with the Commission on Aging to begin massaging that and recommendations. That's the purpose of this.
Right.
Right.
I think you had a
Yeah, I
comment.
just wanted to address the frontier issue, because there had been an article, I believe in the Ridgefield Press, I read it somewhere, that they are revamping, and they're very much in going into providing TV and streaming services.
Sir?
Not be hardwired. I don't know technically what that means, but that sort of
Briefly.
Frontier would not be out of it.
Frontier is currently, we hear that they've stopped installing the fiber. What you have in your home now with Comcast, the coax cable copper, is limited in the amount of information that can travel through there. The future is with fiber, and that's with light. And much more capable of handling a very high amount of traffic, if you will, on that. Frontier is supposedly advertising 1 gig of services here, et cetera. Very few areas of town. If you call them, they say no, it may be 2 years, it may be 5 or 10 years. We don't know, we're not gonna commit to it. So there's a lot of, I'm gonna say it, false advertising going on. So don't be taken by the brochures you get in the mail. Pick up the phone and call, or contact them directly. Frontier is going to be leaving Connecticut.
Yes.
Their operations, the corporation is going to move, I believe, with the exception of their legal department. But as a corporation, I think they're moving to Ohio. Their service in the north end of town has been pathetic. At best. It's been horrible, and we've been moaning and groaning and complaining about it, and still we can't get anything done. We are looking at, as a community, and this is a mammoth problem throughout our community, and that's expensive. There's money coming out of the federal government, billions and billions of dollars, but when you boil it down, how much Ridgefield would get, it's a drop in the bucket as to what we will need to upgrade and provide a high quality of service for your phone, your internet, your TV, and you would control who you want to pick for your service providers. You won't be a captive market to a conglomerate or some of the Comcast, Frontier, Optimum, et cetera, because if you look at what goes on, you can only get Frontier in a certain area, or you can only get Comcast over there, or Optimum over here. It's all controlled, and that's what's driving the price. And working with a company out of Utah named Utopia, they will come in, build, and operate. And I told them, I think Kay mentioned $300 a month for your bills for Comcast. If I call them up and complain, it drops to
I do not have
$220,
Comcast,
$219,
no.
and then all of a sudden, you don't pay attention, you look at it, and it's back up. Oh, that program no longer exists. What Utopia told us is that we will be able to save $100 a month on average per customer. We have to prove that. And it's going to take us a while. This isn't anything that's going to happen overnight. So when you hear about it, come to meetings, listen about it, make your decisions, but we're taking it one step at a time, because what we end up doing will be a service to the people, and we want to be able to control what you pay.
But that's why I'm saying we need a go-to person. It is such a tangle that,
Right.
I mean, maybe the 9-year-old next door can figure it out, but I can't.
And comments for those younger children. So it sounds like there have been some great topic suggestions for future programs. Those would include housing and affordable housing and how that system works. Talking about tax relief and how that can be for seniors to learn about that. To have maybe a conversation with the utilities and maybe have that be one of the topics. We talked about the locker room for medical devices. We talked about some gaps in programming, including people 55 and older, wills and trust, supervised and interactive daycare. And then how to work on a program where there might be an affiliation with younger people to help with some immediate needs around the house. There's a comment in the back, please.
Thank you, Grace. Hi, I'm Andrea Beebe. All of these are great, but unless we solve the transportation problem, which would open us up to our seniors being able to get to all these various things, I think that's an area, we've talked about it on the commission. The transportation is a huge problem. I know I've had discussions, probably more than Rudy wanted to have about it. I live in an apartment building on Main Street, and my building is full of seniors. And they're limited to when the Sweetheart bus can come by, when they can catch the bus to Walmart. So they feel sometimes their world is rather small because they don't have the access to get out. So last week I took them on a field trip and we went to Target and we did that. Maybe we can start some of those pairing. I know we have rides for Ridgefield. The big blue bus coming through town really isn't solving their needs. I'm wondering if there has ever been any thought given to some sort of scheduled bus on a circuit around town that could help people get to Stop and Shop, go to Home Goods, go out to lunch with friends. Because I think we would, as this lady over here mentioned, we would open up the community to more seniors being able to stay in the community to do the things they want versus catching a Sweetheart bus to Walmart once a week.
So there is a program that had been in place, and maybe it's not working as efficiently as it could, but it was a loop bus that would go through the more highly populated areas in town.
It's a
And
dial
to-
ride, heart bus service. Tony's totally familiar with it.
Yeah.
Talked about it in more detail, but I think we're at a point now, we own a bus that we bought from Sphere. It's probably in need of, I'll step forward, it's probably in need of being traded in, but it runs very well. I think we're at a point now where we need to begin a sustainable service where people can rely on it and know, oh, it's Tuesday, 3 o'clock, I know where I can get it. Right? And we don't have that. And that lack of reliability or scheduling throws it off, and you can't trust it, so, yes.
One of the problems, I can't remember, I went to the transportation meeting and came away more confused and everything. I saved all the paper, but a lot of the things, and I know that Ridgefield Rides, which is a huge help, that having trouble getting drivers, but you have to make an appointment ahead, and sometimes when you need transportation, it's because of a last minute thing.
Right.
And you haven't been able to make the reservation, so if you knew there were stops, that
Right,
would
with
go,
the bus,
good.
right.
I can't, the car's not going, but I can catch the bus.
The more immediate, I think, would be helpful with rides. They had people standing by, ready to be able to provide that quick service, but it's difficult. It's not easy.
Volunteers are needed everywhere at this point, so if you know anyone who'd like to volunteer, please share that information. So it sounds like there's some great program suggestions. I think there also are some topics we've touched on that will be quantified in the needs assessment survey. So it will be interesting to have all of your input on that when that does come out. And then we'll be able to really tackle what the issue is across the community and see if we can come up with some solutions. I think we have another task here I'm supposed to be attending to. I don't know how to advance the slide.
Oh, click the arrow to the right on the clicker.
Okay, got it. Okay, so, is this you?
We debated whether to call the sounding board or firing line.
Okay, I'll give you the stage.
Well, you all were a fine example of how this thing works, this meeting. Thank you all for your questions. And as was said, once the survey is complete, we'll have a better idea of what the needs are for all the individuals. So, the sounding board, we're here. We're here, as I said, like a middleman. Like we listen. You guys are the voices. We're the ears. We listen, and we take it to the next level to hopefully solve the solution, get the solution to your needs. And with that, in conclusion, so 10/10, October 10th, is a meeting on Medicare open enrollment. And hopefully everybody will attend that, and I think that's about it, right? Yeah.
Is that going to be scheduled through the library?
I'm not quite sure.
Yes.
So the meeting here on 10/10?
Yes.
So it's this group, right, here on 10/10, and then there's one at Founders Hall if you're not able to make this one. I forget the date.
Yes, that is available through the library. It's Tuesday, the second Tuesday of every month. That's the second Tuesday. And that program has done two things for people in this community. First, it's given them peace of mind knowing that their selections are optimized in terms of cost savings. And it's literally saved people in this community hundreds of thousands of dollars since it started. So I would say it's a can't miss event.
And if I may say, Karen Gaudian is also sponsoring a program on, I think, the 26th of September about long-term care. So check the calendar.
So the last thing I want to say is just let's work together and make life easier for all of us.
Can we just have some clarification? The meeting on the 10th is this group on this topic?
Yeah, is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
So it won't be open forum like this, it's a specific topic, and the COA is running it. Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah.
And I guess with that, we have refreshments in the back, and we can continue this conversation.